I want to do another example here. So example number 4, we're going to perform the indicated operation. So we're going to do this subtraction problem. If you take a look, grab the highlighter real quick. Our denominators are clearly not the same in this problem. So just like the last problem, we're going to have to get a common denominator for the numerator and the denominator. So we're going to follow the exact same approach as we did in the previous example. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to factor both denominators. So 2x minus 1 is going to factor to, it looks like 2x minus 1. So we're just going to factor out that GCF there. So 2 times the quantity x minus 1. And then x squared minus 4x plus 3. That looks like it's going to factor nicely to x minus 3 times x minus 1. So again, what we need to look for are each of the different factors that each of the denominators contains, and we're going to include each factor to the highest power that it appears as part of our common denominator. So I'm going to write down the denominator down here. I'm just going to abbreviate it to nom. So I'm going to look at the numerical coefficients. It looks like we've got a 2 and a 1. So a 2 is going to be part of our common denominator. And look at the next factor from the first denominator, so x minus 1. And it looks like we have that over here. Both of those are raised to the first power. So x minus 1 is going to be a factor of our denominator. And then if we look on the right-hand side, there's a factor of x minus 3. So that also has to be included in our denominator. So it looks like for this example, our common denominator is 2 times the quantity x minus 1 times the quantity x minus 3. So I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to look at that first fraction. So x plus 2 over, I'm going to write 2x minus 2 in its factored form. So 2 times x minus 1. So if we look, I'm going to grab a different colored pen real quick. The denominator has a 2, which our common denominator has as well. Has an x minus 1, which our common denominator has. And what we're missing is that x minus 3. So we're going to have to multiply the numerator and denominator by x minus 3. All right, and we're in business there. Okay, the second part is minus negative 2x minus 1 over. All right, so again, if we take a look, x squared minus 4x plus 3 in its factored form is x minus 3 times x minus 1. So the x minus 3, we have that in our common denominator. X minus 1, also have that in our common denominator. So it looks like the only factor that we're missing is 2. So we're going to have to multiply the numerator and denominator of this fraction by 2 over 2. All right, so let's go through and do out our process. I'm going to kind of move this over here like that. All right, so I'm just going to leave everything in factored form for now. So on the top here, we're going to multiply x plus 2 times x minus 3. I'm just going to leave that as x plus 2 times x minus 3. And now if we multiply the denominators out, we get 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. That's 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3, which is good because that's equivalent to what we got for our common denominator. And then in blue over here, on the top, we're going to have minus 2 times negative 2x minus 1 all over 2 times x minus 3 times x minus 1 is 2 times, I'm just going to write it in the same order, x minus 1 times x minus 3. And again, that's equivalent to our common denominator over here on the left. So we know we're in good shape. So now it's a process of just simplifying. I shouldn't say that. We need to subtract first. So everything is going to be over our common denominator of 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. And then we're just going to add the numerators together. So x plus 2 times x minus 3 minus 2 times negative 2 minus 1. All right, so we're doing pretty well here. So let's continue to simplify a bit. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to start multiplying out this numerator. So x times x is x squared. X times negative 3 is negative 3x. 2 times x is 2x. So that's going to give us a negative x. And then 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. I'm going to do the same over here. I'm going to distribute the negative 2. So negative 2 times negative 2x is positive 4x. Negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. And that's going to be all over 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. All right, so we're getting there. So we're going to continue to clean up that numerator a little bit. We're going to combine some like terms. So x squared is all by itself. Negative x plus 4x is plus 3x. Negative 6 plus 2 is negative 4. And again, that's all over our common denominator that we found a minute ago. X minus 1 times x minus 3. Now, one thing that we didn't do on the previous one that we should have checked for is we need to see if our result here, our difference that we found, has any common factors. So what I would suggest that we do here is factor the numerator. So x squared plus 3x minus 4. That's going to factor to x plus 4 times x minus 1. All over, again, our common denominator of 2 times x minus 1 times x minus 3. So if we look, something nice happens here. Negative 1, excuse me, x minus 1 and x minus 1 are common factors. So we're going to get x plus 4 left over on the top, and then 2 times x minus 3. So that's going to be our final solution. So like I mentioned in the previous video, a little bit of work can get messy. So you really want to make sure that you keep your work organized. Make sure that you're double checking and factoring things properly. Sign errors, you're going to want to check for those as well. The common places where people make mistakes. So go ahead and try some practice problems. Make sure that you email me if you have any questions. Good luck, and looking forward to seeing you guys soon.